Wow, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. It has happened. Democratic elites have successfully pushed out Joe Biden, and he has endorsed Kamala Harris, which is important for a number of reasons. But before we get into it, we'll try to explain to you how this got here from Friday, how it happened. I really wanted to go live on Locals to give you guys a play-by-play, but unfortunately had to deal with some ugly life stuff. Okay, first things foremost, let me just say this. I'm going to try to give you the only way this makes sense. And I was just on the phone with somebody, we give up for like privileged conversation, but I was just on the phone with someone, and this scenario I'm going to give you is really the only way it does make sense to me. And this is something that could really result in the breaking of a party for at least this cycle. There have been times when parties have meltdowns like the Democratic Party is having now, and they'll pick themselves back up. This is, however, a different situation. In the modern era, since we have conducted nominations and presidential elections in this way, we've really never had a situation where a party just tosses out the votes of millions of their own primary voters. There are tons of people, they all have their hot takes, and they're on Twitter and everywhere else, or X, whatever, trying to give people like these historical analogies. And I've warned you over and over again about false historical analogies. In the modern era, we've gone over this. There is no such example of what we're seeing. Harry Truman quit before anyone voted. Lyndon Johnson quit. He quit in this before spring, right? What's this, spring solstice? Yeah, he quit March 31st. And there was never an example of the primary voters in the modern era doing this, selecting the nominee, and then the elites of the party, in this case, the Democratic elites, coming in and forcing that nominee out who has clinched the nomination. They have clinched the nomination, tossing them out, and then selecting, because this is a selection now. This is not an election. And I'm going to make the case that these calls for an open convention are bogus, that there really will not be an open convention. There's several reasons for that. One is because the scenario I'm going to give you doesn't call for an open convention. It calls for, I want to jump the gun here, because then if I say that word, then, and I'll say it later and you'll understand what I mean. But if I say that word, you're going to understand what I mean by this particular scenario. And then two, there are just rules. Now you can make the case that they don't give a damn about rules. And honestly, I never deluded myself into thinking that they did. It's just the task before them. If they try to strong arm different states, if they try to, but I mean, some of these states aren't run by Democrats. So I don't know how they would go into this having an open convention, since they scheduled their convention so late. Let me just easily say this. The date of the convention is late beyond certain states' deadlines. They already had Joe Biden, who had clinched the nomination. They already knew that Biden had enough of the delegate votes to give the state the name of that person who will be running. So the convention itself would have just been a formality. That's it. That's the word I'm looking for. That's not the case here anymore. However, there is something that you should know, and I think this is going to be a big part of, it supports the scenario I'm going to go with. Oh, by the way, Don, being reminded, of course, if you like the videos, don't forget to like them, share them far and wide, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, go on over to Rumble, take a minute of your time and subscribe there as well, and vice versa. It's enormously helpful to us when you do that. All right. So it takes less than a minute, and we very much appreciate it. It helps with algorithms and advertisers, the 2 A's. All right. It's big time. Also, I was supposed to say this in the open. I'm probably going to put out a really quick survey for all of you. And I may even do it just real quick during the break, pop something up and ask you guys what you want to do here. Because we kind of all knew this was coming by late Friday, early Saturday, even though it wasn't confirmed until Sunday. So I didn't pull the trigger on the poll in Georgia. Obviously, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I was considering just doing both, but I thought that there would be other things that we could poll. Removing Biden if he was going to quit, we could add another question to that survey. For instance, do you approve of this? I mean, do you approve of the Democrats? Basically, not basically, they did throw the votes of millions of people in the trash can because the Democratic elites and donors told them they had to, with Barack Obama, of course, leading the charge. Once he came on board, that was it. Joe Biden could not survive. All right. Barack Obama made him president. Now he unmade him. And Joe Biden, as we'll show you in a second, is not going to survive the presidency. If he did, I would be shocked. You cannot argue you're too senile to run for president, but argue at the same time that you're not too senile to run the presidency. I just don't see it. All right. So we'll figure out whether you guys want to do just a whole new national poll. We have both of them up there. I think it's time. I think we need to do another poll now nationally, but also in Georgia, I kept my powder dry in Georgia, thinking if this is going to happen, let's just wait. And then we'll just do a survey with a lot more useful information. All right. All right. So this is important. This is the FEC filing. I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see on the screen. It is what is called an FEC Form 1 Statement of Organization. It is filing number 1805326. You might notice something interesting about those numbers. This is the Biden campaign filing. It has now been changed. As you can see, Harris Victory Fund. All right. And of course, it is the Democratic Party. The candidate now is Kamala Harris. This is the principal campaign committee for one candidate, Kamala Harris. It is called Harris for President. It is no longer Biden's committee. Let me explain what I'm trying to tell you here. This is Biden's filing. It is now no longer Biden's filing. It is now Harris for President. Late last week, when Mark Halpern, which, by the way, his reporting was largely correct, although there were people in Biden's orbit who really thought they could survive this. It was all over late Friday. All right. And I told you this on Friday during the show already, and we'll talk about this more in a little bit. Democratic North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper had already received a call by the time the show was airing on Friday, and he already told them that he would do it if Harris chose him. And what is do what? Be her VP. What's the thinking there? We need a white Southern man to run on the ticket with. And there's a reason why. I actually think that he is probably one of the most likely. If not, it's going to happen. But we'll get there. I don't want to jump too far ahead. Anyway, we talked about this, that some of these ideas, the Michelle Obama ideas and many others, were pipe dreams. Again, it's not so much that I didn't expect them. Nothing they do surprises me anymore. Breaking the rules, nothing really surprises me. But this is about money. And the donors already gave their money. She got a $50 million boost after the name on that filing changed. It's a big boost in a short period of time. There are going to be Democratic donors who are pissed. They like Joe Biden, but they're in the minority, the very, very few minority. And actually, one publicly stated on Friday that if you do this, I will not fund Kamala Harris at all. However, they already have some of his money. Actually, a lot of it. And between the committees and, the official campaigns and various PACs committees, we already wrote those checks, and she's going to legally be able to use them. This idea of an open convention, I think, is total BS. Because of the rules, and again, I know it's just a Herculean. I know they don't care about the rules. I know that. I get that. But it's still a Herculean task. And the number one that's been in the news, Ohio. The Ohio Secretary of State's not going to be strong-armed by Kamala Harris. or Kamala, whatever. By the way, according to Mika Brzezinski, I do this on purpose, and so does everybody else. So you ready? Let me just play this clip because this is the route they're going to go. It's like, what are they going to do? And this goes back to the conversation I was just telling you I had. What is a modern Democratic campaign? I think he's right about this. And we've talked about this all the time. It's a big propaganda push. They don't have a message. They don't have inspiration. They rely on what is now, not a bias, but a deeply corrupt state media arm. That is what the Democratic Party is, the vehicle of the administrative state right now. It actually used to be the Republican Party for a short time under Bush, but is the vehicle of the administrative state is now the Democratic Party. And the media, because of similar corporations and interests, factions that basically influence what the state does, it runs the show. They are the same interest and factions that keep media on air. Many of the same. Pfizer, perfect example. Boeing, perfect example. Lockheed Martin, perfect example. So they all bankroll the media, but they also bankroll elected officials, and they make sure that those elected officials give the bureaucracy the money they need to stay afloat. The media is an arm of the state at this point. And the Democratic Party uses that arm to push propaganda and information. Now, it became a point because, of course, they all knew Joe Biden was senile. Everybody knew Joe Biden was senile. But there became a point where it was no longer a tenable situation to hide that from the public. The debate was, look, sometimes things aren't a big thought out conspiracy. I'll buy the concept, though, that they threw Biden out there and that his inner circle got played and they threw him out there to get rid of him. Why? Why is that? So they can make an excuse as to why they lost. If they ran Joe Biden again, Joe Biden is the symbol of what they did in 2020. Joe Biden, and I said this after the announcement came out, I think people are going to look back at the Biden presidency as an illegitimate presidency, and they could not have him defeated by Donald Trump in a rematch because that would have solidified the illegitimacy of his presidency. Joe Biden is the symbol of everything they did in 2020 to rob the American public of their voice. And it was a final act in a long chapter or a long story, however the hell you write these things, in a long story about subverting the will of the voter, which began in 2016. And Joe Biden is the symbol of that. And they just couldn't have him be defeated because that would have been like the American public now know 100% how this went down, and they're rebuking it, and he's gone. And when this debate happened, I began to worry that would be the case because that Trump had been leading Biden for more than a year. He was leading Biden overwhelmingly when the polls were showing a Republican advantage in 22, but still a relatively small advantage most of the time within the sampling eras, not Trump. He was way ahead of Biden. So, and I use this example often, but it's a good example. Laxalt had a small lead, but he had a lead. He ended up losing. He had a small polling lead. Donald Trump did not have a small polling lead. If Laxalt was up by 2, Trump was up by 9. So Laxalt lost by what is it, a quarter of a percent or something like that? He loses by a quarter of a percent. That means Trump still would have won by 5 to 7 points. So there have been these grievances for a long time, long before Biden ever went out there and showed that he was senile. Now they need an excuse to bury those grievances again, and they can't let the symbol of what they did go down in flames. And he was going to lose anyway. They know that. But I don't know that all of this is some giant conspiracy. I think they got scared. Because at this point now, there's the potential that he could go down. She could go down in an even bigger ball of flames. And they took 2 other people. They could take, depending on who she chooses, 2 other people off the board, which is why with all of that being said, in that context, I'm going to give you, after we look at people's reactions, I got some clips I want to go through. I'm going to give you what I think is going on and what the thought process is here. All right. But I'll get some clips from the right, some clips from the left to see. The first one, however, that I want to play is, I don't know if maybe, no, I don't think I'm going to be able to. Hold on. It's just so, hold on. Let's get rid of this. Get rid of it. It's lagging me. It was lagging me, and I don't want to risk glitching on the show. Before we heard the usual, I mean, they're trying to get back to how Democrats run a modern campaign, and I'll play you a clip of that in a second. But Chris Coons, who is a fellow Delawarean, came out and basically said that this is a catastrophe. He cried on TV. He got emotional. He thought that this was a tragedy. But let's look and see now how Democrats, the left, the media is playing this. Here's that clip from Mika first, and then there's another one I want to play as well. All right.
From inside Republican circles and right-wing media that the hate campaign against Kamala Harris has begun. You'll notice they purposefully pronounce her name wrong. They say Kamala. They do it all the time. It is on purpose. But the talk is to start that hate campaign and get it going and start it churning.
All right. I call her Kamala all the time, and it has nothing to do with me doing it on purpose. You know, when that whole thing started, I did do it on purpose to joke a little bit. The fact of the matter is they called her Kamala for years. Years. You could literally Google it right now, and you will see a montage of left-wing pundits and media personalities calling her Kamala. All of a sudden, we were told after 2 years, 3 years, that it's Kamala, or however you say it. Well, that's how human brains work. We're going to say Kamala because that's what you said, and that's what we heard for years. I have a lot going on in my life. It's not that important to me whether or not I mispronounce Kamala or Kamala, whatever. I just don't care enough about it. How about that? Personally, I don't give a shit. If I accidentally mispronounce her name all the time, people mispronounce my name. All the time. They misspell it, they mispronounce it, and it's my own fault. Well, it's not my fault, but it's my ancestors' fault. They wanted a more American-sounding name, apparently. So they took a location in Italy, and they made a play on it to make it sound more American. They didn't want it to be Barisi or Baricio or something like this. So they just decided, we'll just call it Barris, and probably didn't contest it when my great-grandfather came in from Ellis Island. I don't get all in a tizzy that it's anti-Italian American when somebody mispronounces or misspells my name. All the time, people spell it with 2 R's because it sounds like Harris. Barris, Harris, right? So I get it. Whoops, big deal. People say Boris because it's only 1 R. So when they see it's only 1 R, oh, Boris, maybe it's Boris. I don't go pissed off that it makes me sound Russian. They don't care enough. But that's how the media is trying to get back into running a Democratic campaign the way that they run Democratic campaigns. Now, here's the deal. And I'm not going to bring up the tweet, but because it's just one of many that's doing this. They're going to do that to try to scare you into talking about things that are fair game. And Megyn Kelly's 100% correct. Her banging her way to the top because she's an unqualified moron is fair game. It's fair game. Sorry. End of story. It is 100% fair game. She nailed a fat, old, married man because she was unqualified for the job and because her opponent was going to beat her like a drum. So she found the guy who runs the show in California, in that area of California, and she began to have an affair with him so she could block this other rising star from getting the district attorney position that she wanted. Would you want your daughter, would any American father or mother want their daughter to rise through the ranks of whatever field that she's in the way that Kamala Harris did? That's one reason why it's fair game. The second reason is because it's a matter of qualifications. If you are unqualified, so you use sex to sleep your way to the top, it's fair game. Will you still be qualified to do that job when you get there? And here is, I mean, the truth is she doesn't do much. She was appointed the border czar. She failed miserably. The vice presidency is one of a more backstage or behind the scenes position. So it's always tough for them to try to step out. Vice presidents, once upon a time, used to be automatic front runners, or like at least strong strong potential front runners for the next cycle. That is not the case anymore because of the role of the vice president. It is Trump gave Pence a little bit more to do. Biden used to use it. Even he used his role. He was actually more of an out front guy, but he used his role to really do behind the scene things. And Barack Obama didn't like being president. It's just truth. He didn't like the job of a president. He didn't like calling members of Capitol Hill and sweet talking them and wrangling their votes. He didn't like that stuff. Trump, very good at it. Obama, not at all, and couldn't care less. He thinks he knows best, and he really can't be bothered with your objections. So he would instead send somebody who was a fixture of that institution, Joe Biden, down there. And Joe Biden was more public, and he would do it. Kamala Harris doesn't have those relationships because Kamala Harris doesn't have good relationships. Kamala Harris did not run her office of the U.S. Senate well. There was an enormous amount of turnover in and out of that office. There's a whole bunch of stories. You could go look on Politico about it, staff abuses and everything else. There's a whole bunch of stories about when she ran for president in 2020. The turnover there, the rate was incredible. They were constantly in disarray. It was one of the worst run campaigns in modern presidential election political history. She was awful. She runs the office of the vice president the same way she ran those other two teams. And then teams are like more like, a campaign is an organization. The U.S. Senate office it's an organization. It's a group of people. It's like a small company. And she ran them awful. She runs the vice presidency also equally awful. The turnout rates are also extremely high, and they're incompetent. So let me play this clip, and then we'll see the line that she's taking. And I think it's not that far of a leap from here to what I'm talking about with this idea that, of course, her less than admirable actions are fair game. Because what all of these lines, these arguments are aiming at is that she's just not good at this. She's not qualified to do it. And she's not a good candidate. There's a reason she didn't even make it to Iowa when she ran for president. All right, let's go.
She had disastrous staff turnover as vice president. I check it on the daily.
Yep.
Her public schedule, gentlemen, rarely has anything on it or one or two things on it. She does not speak well. She does not work hard.
All right,
she
nope.
doesn't inspire anyone.
Let me ask you.
And she should not be the standard bearer for the party. Yes, sir.
So she says she should not be the standard bearer for the party. That's ultimately the decision for these Democratic elites who already pushed her out because, hell, the voters aren't going to get it. The voters had their say. They rejected her. So now it's not the question of who should be the standard bearer is a done deal for the small guy, for the little guy. That's out. And now they're forced to wonder about whether or not she's qualified to do this. And the fact of the matter is she's not. She can't do Kellyanne is 100% correct. That office is in shambles. There's stories on Politico. There's stories even on the Washington Post. She is not a good vice president. She's not a good manager at all. So that leaves the media with the only thing they could do is go the way that, like Mika went in the clip that I just sent you before. And there's another one I'm going to show you in a second. So far, though, the Trump campaign has not done that. So far, the very first ad from the Trump campaign, Simply Ties, is an attempt, and there's a great article by Philip Wegman on Real Clear Politics right now about the Republican plan to run against Kamala. I actually think, or Kamala, whatever. I actually think that this is a good way to start, but I would not end here. And it's Donald Trump pre-assassination. I would have been 100% certain that he would just take this all the way and just bury her. I'm not sure where they're going to go now, though. I mean, will this be as far as they go? Let's look at the first ad, the clip. The first, actually, it's not a clip, it's a full ad. Let's look at the full ad of where Trump's campaign is deciding to go, and it's not that far of a leap. They're laying the groundwork. Whether they'll do it or not is still, I think it's still, if Philip's reporting is correct, and I think it is, it's still up for debate.
On it. She covered up Joe's obvious mental.
Wait, just so
Kamala was in on it.
There you go. I just wanted to go back and make sure you heard the things. Kamala was in on it.
She covered up Joe's obvious mental decline.
Our president is in good shape, in good health, tireless, vibrant, and I have no doubt about the strength of the work that we have done.
But Kamala knew Joe couldn't do the job, so she did it. Look what she got done. A border invasion, runaway inflation, the American dream dead. They created this mess. Kamala owns this failed record. Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Okay, so I would absolutely start that. I would lay the groundwork with that. That's a good start. I wouldn't end there. Although I'm not really sure that he has to, because we are going to talk about whether or not Kamala Harris is even a strong candidate. And my argument is going to be she is not. Even with Joe being demented and having dementia, he's still, I think it's very obvious. He would have ran stronger than Kamala Harris. We've gone a million times. There are only 2 battleground counties in Pennsylvania, folks. Erie County, Northampton. The rest Trump has taken already from them. Who's going to do better in Erie County? Who's going to do better in the polls aside? Who's going to do better in those 2 battleground counties? Her or Scranton Joe? Come on. All right. So that's a good foundation, but I don't think I do not think that that's should be the end of the line. They should move a lot further with that. But this is the way the media is going to go about it. This is a great example of how they're going to roll with this. All right. This is anytime someone like me or even Trump surrogates begin to bring up whether or not this stuff is fair game, this is the hand they're going to play.
Go to what the biggest question could be. Right. If Joe Biden has had such an extraordinary run in terms of legislative accomplishments.
Did he, though? Did he? The question is not whether or not he got things through. This is what I really don't want lost in this conversation. All right. And this is what they're going to try. This is what I mean when I say they're going to try to bury the plot here. They usurp the president. This presidency now is viewed as illegitimate by way too many people. And they're going to try to talk about how, successful he was without recognizing what is obvious, which is that he was successful in getting certain things through, but they were not popular. There's a reason why he is not popular. Far more unpopular than Trump was in his most unpopular time as president. The policies, it wasn't an issue of whether or not they were effective at communicating these accomplishments she's talking about. People know they didn't approve of them, and Democrats did it anyway. There's a big difference. And those grievances, it will be a sin. It will be a tragedy and a sin if they allow this narrative to swamp that, to erase that from history. And then they'll just go on and carry on as if like that is not the case. And they'll come back with more of the same, and they'll do it again. And none of the voters that were speaking up this whole time, none of the voters that are making their voice heard through people like me and every other pollster, they will not be heard. Kamala's loss will just be a loss because they were in disarray, and because they couldn't separate her from Joe's senility, and you'll hear all these excuses. What you won't hear is that voters disapprove of the behavior and the tactics the Democratic Party used, and they disapprove of the policies that hurt them. And that will be a sin. Trump has been leading because both of these men were presidents and they both had records and they both were being judged by those records. And the American public came to a collective conclusion that they wanted Trump back, that they had been duped and they wanted Trump back. They pushed Biden out so that we couldn't draw that conclusion anymore. And they're going to run with crap like this. It's not that. It's really because, we couldn't untie her from Biden's senility. And then also, oh yeah, Americans are racist and sexist.
Over the last 4 years. But the biggest gripe was his age and his ability to run the next 4 years. And actually,
that's not true. Let me just stop her here because I want to take these points one at a time. That's not true. Everybody has known Joe Biden was senile since they put him up for some fake election in 2020. And they ran their propaganda campaign and they hid him in the basement. And all these people, every single one of them you're looking at in that camera right now, lied to the public, lied to their own voters. And they're doing it again. They're just still lying. The biggest gripe was not his age. The biggest gripe, I don't know, inflation? The way he pulled out of Afghanistan, the disastrous withdrawal from America's longest war, starting a new war in Eastern Europe, Middle East peace completely breaking down, Green New Deal scams to destroy the U.S. automobile industry. Was Trump leading in Michigan because of Biden's age? Or was Trump leading in Michigan because of how Biden handled the economy? This is a sin if they get away with this. It is a sin. In 2016, they absolutely refused to recognize why Hillary Clinton lost. It had to be Russia collusion. It had to be that Donald Trump is a traitor. He's an asset of Vladimir Putin's, and he's a traitor. And he colluded with Vladimir Putin, and they together somehow stole the election. Did they expand mail-in voting, Rich, and implement an unsolicited vote by mail? Nope. Did they remove or did they reduce or just wholly remove the verification procedures in states that didn't even have early vote histories or cultures or infrastructure, by the way? Did they do that? Nope. How did they do it? I don't know. They hacked the DNC and they got our emails, which are real emails. And they hacked the power grid too. Remember that from the Washington Post? And they did all this. I don't know. They somehow just stole the election, okay? Had to be something. Which, by the way, they drove some nutcase to try to kill Steve Scalise and every other Republican practicing for a charity baseball game on their own downtime. They have to make up these excuses. And those excuses become the story and the narrative. Who gets forgotten? The average American. And their grievance gets forgotten. And that's why they ditched Joe Biden. Not because he's senile, because they no longer could keep up the pretense. The charade was over. It truly was, and the title of that episode was correct. It truly was an emperor has no clothes moment. They knew the emperor had no clothes. They didn't give a shit. All they cared about was their ability to tell you that he did. He ain't naked. That's you. There's something wrong with you. If you see a naked emperor, there's something wrong with you. He looks dressed to us. Once that became untenable, they cut him. Because then he began to jeopardize their ability to do this. And let's finish the rest, even though it's very painful to get through and listen to. Let's go.
To lead the country. If now the country is offered all of Joe Biden's policies with someone who's essentially half his age and they can't get over the line.
Time out. This is why they're too stupid to realize that Kamala Harris is a worse candidate than Joe Biden. I figured it out. She just told me. They can't do basic math. Forget about polls and statistics and all these models running different iterations and different, different iterations, 10 time, 10 million time scenarios. Forget about it. All those likelihoods and probabilities, way too complicated for her. She doesn't even know what half of 80 is. Can somebody tell me how old Kamala Harris is? She's half his age.
What does that say about the American people and our willingness
Here it comes.
to have a black woman as our president?
Boom! There it is. This is your fault. You're racist. You're sexist. It's not their fault that they lied to you. It's not their fault that they lied to their own voter. It's not their fault that their policies are crushing you. It's your fault. That's why Kamala, whatever, she fits this bill perfectly. She fits this mold perfectly. This is exactly what they need.
Steph, I have heard a lot of trepidation.
Then, Susan.
I have heard a lot of trepidation about a black woman being the president. I've had a lot of trepidation. And that's why, by the way, Roy Cooper got a phone call. Make sense? Sure does now. None of this matters, of course, however, if Barack Obama, who has been kind of silent, none of this matters if Barack Obama does not get on board, which I imagine he will. Why? Does he think Kamala can win? No, I think he thinks Kamala can continue the charade for them, even in a loss. It's 12:40. Let me just, before we look at some of the rest of the clips here, let me paint a picture for you. They think this is going to be a very bad year. We know that. We know the headlines that they showed, the headlines in some of their most, the rags that the run to rags that they go to when they want to spill something, when they want to leak against somebody, when they want to hurt someone, when they're trying to move things in a direction that they want to move them to, the Politicos, the Washington Posts, right? We know that Democrats believed that they were not only going to lose, but that they were going to be wiped out. And it wasn't long ago when we had a show, and during the show, I played a clip of Colorado Senator Michael Bennet going on TV and in a rare display of honesty or whatever it is, spine honesty or whatever, what else might have been motivating him, just confirmed. Yep, I said it. And guess what? Everyone thinks it. Not only is Joe Biden going to lose, he's going to lose in a landslide. Democrats believed that they were on the precipice of like an 2008 level Bush style collapse, and that it would be like 2008 for Republicans. Trump is going to carry states that are traditionally blue. Barack Obama was able to peel away Indiana. He almost peeled away Missouri. He peeled away North Carolina. He single-handedly turned Virginia into a battleground state. And then all of a sudden, it reversed. I mean, some of them reversed the next year now, but fast forward and they're in that position. Trump is leading in the state of Virginia right now. Depending on what aggregate you look at, Minnesota is a slight edge for Donald Trump. The DRI poll had a tie in Maine before the debate. It would be interesting to see what that is statewide now. Not only was Trump carrying Maine's 2nd congressional district, he was on track to carry the state. The state of Nevada is going. North Carolina, which they're going to try to stave some of the losses off, so it ain't that bad. That's why Roy Cooper is a great selection, or one of the reasons why, that in their minds, he's not going to help her. And the viability of that ticket is not going to be improved because of Roy Cooper. I think they're on the trajectory that they're on, and that they're removing Joe Biden isn't going to help them. All right. I don't know how You replace Joe Biden with a less competent person and someone that the public views to be less competent because of a couple of shit polls that were put out to help them do this. We have track record of 2 years worth of data. And over the 2 years that we have that data of Harris and Trump and Biden and Trump, so what? We went from 60% thinking he was senile to 70% thinking he's senile. They did this for a response bias? Come on. Give me a break. But they are now facing a situation that Republicans were facing in 08. States that are their states are getting ready to go. New Mexico, Trump is doing too well with Hispanics to call Mexico GG. They're going to have to run in and parachute in with millions upon millions of dollars to stop Donald Trump from taking the state of New Mexico. We went over the map on Friday, and that was and still remains the reality of this election right now. Regardless of what you hear from every hack, from Alan Lichtman to the shit rag at 538, this is not that close of an election anymore. Trump was on track to romp. And if there's nothing you can do about it, then what? If you're the Democrats, what becomes your goal then? You have to salvage it somehow. You have to make it not about your failed policies, not about your past indiscretions and your past authoritarian actions. I mean, folks, I'm crying out loud. They ran a coup against the guy. When they finally figured out how to remove him through vote by mail and 51 intelligence officers lying and this one, rocking that boat and this one rocking that boat and creating the conditions where they could get an incumbent out, it took the American public less than a year to realize they had been duped. And at all costs, it can't be about that. It has to be about something else. And Kamala's going to help them do that. All right, it's 12:45. Oh, man, I got so much more. There's just so much more to say. Well, basically where I'm going with this, and I'll explain more after the break, she's a sacrificial lamb. And that's why it has to be somebody. Roy Cooper is a great pick for that kind of a ticket because Roy Cooper is a white Southern man with no future. If you're Gretchen Whitmer, would you join that ticket? If you're Gretchen Whitmer, would you contest this convention? You're going to run against Donald Trump, who has a massive lead right now, or will you wait because you're young enough and you can do it? Will you wait until 2028 when you're potentially running against a Trump pretender? If you're Gavin Newsom, would you risk fracturing the entire California delegation and lose? I mean, this is an uphill cycle. All for what looks to be at this point a certain loss? Would you do that? If you're Josh Shapiro, would you even want to associate your name with this ticket? The ticket that erased the votes of 15 million voters? Just throw them in the trash. Just rip them up. I don't care. Throwing them in the trash can. Do you want to be a part of this stain? Because this is going to go down as a stain on American history. The Biden presidency, despite all the hacks in academia who make their little lists now, they will go down as an illegitimate stain on our history. One that tried to throw their political opponents in jail. And by the way, started with a lie, a complete lie, one hoax after the other, he's covering up his senility. This will be a black stain on American history. He will be a disgraced president. The symbol of an illegitimate attempt by the administrative state to cancel the will of the sovereign voter. That's if the sovereign voter wins this, by the way, because the election of Donald Trump will not alone determine that outcome. As they have proven time and time again, they will not stop. Kamala is a shit candidate. She's perfect for this sacrificial lamb candidacy. She's perfect for it. And Roy Cooper, he's perfect to be right there next to her. Why? Every time we talk about 22, everyone talks about Florida. Nobody noticed. North Carolina was an absolute red wave. Roy Cooper has been a dead governor for years now. Then in 22, he ran into a wipeout of epic proportions, and Republicans got super majorities in the state houses and state legislatures. Both their candidates for the state Supreme Court got their asses kicked. They ran a minority, a black woman who they tried to paint as conservative. That's the playbook in the South, whether you're running in North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, whatever it may be. Andy Bashir's a great example. Bradenson's a great example. They have a playbook for the South where they run these Democrats and they just pretend to be conservatives. It worked the first time for Roy Cooper. He's never been elected with a clear mandate. He's always squeaked on by. Republicans had a horrible candidate in 2020. It's the only reason why he squeaked on. Nice guy, bad candidate. And not only that, they probably still could have got him across the line if they would have funded him. But the Republican Governors Association is stupid. He can't. What's he going to do? He's termed out. Even if he could run, he's not going to win another term. He's going to lose, and he's going to lose badly. Is he going to run for U.S. Senate? I don't know. Cunningham had a 10-point lead. What happened to Cunningham? Got his ass kicked. Ted Budd crushed Sherry Beasley. Crushed her. And now Trump is ahead anywhere between whatever poll you're looking at, 5 to 11 points in the state of North Carolina, which has moved with the nation considerably. Almost equally, I should say. Almost equally. It is right behind the state of Nevada with how it moves with the national trend. The state of Nevada bucks the national trend, is more Republican overall than the nation, more than North Carolina, but North Carolina is pretty close. If the country is moving in the direction it's moving right now, where do you think North Carolina is going? The research triangle is not enough. Maybe they try to salvage or save face by picking somebody like a Roy Cooper and they don't get completely wiped out in the Sun Belt, but it's a save face attempt. They're going to sacrifice the Midwest to do it, but it's a save face attempt, and I'm not sure it'll even be successful. Atlanta Journal-Constitution poll just came out this morning against Harris, and Trump is clobbering her. I mean, it's 5 points in the head-to-head, but look at the internals. He's going to drum her. All right. I got to take a break. When we come back, we'll play some more clips because unbelievable how these people can do an about face with the change of events. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We're going to show you some of that. All right. But that's what I think is going on here. And I'll elaborate more when we come back. Oh, man. What are we going to do? Let's split it up. So we don't take too long on one. Because we got that 2-minute little Rich runs to go get coffee break. Let's split it up. All right, man. The world's on fire. Got a text message from a friend actually in Scotland, followed by I'm getting these very I'm afraid text messages. And, some of my friends in the EU, which are certainly not right wing, they rely on America to defend them. And they're wondering, where the hell is Joe Biden? You see a schedule today, by the way? There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. Is Joe Biden even alive? Who's running your country, bro? Who's running your country? So, I mean, in times like this, it's no wonder why people run to alternative places for protection, for financial protection, safer places to invest their money. Stocks are unpredictable. Inflation has a real impact on the value of currencies, and so does political and economic events. And that's why I want to talk to you about Freedom Gold USA. If you've ever thought about investing in gold or silver, or you're already interested in diversifying your investment portfolio, Freedom Gold USA is the company that you should check out. What I like about them, bottom line, Brian's been on the show to talk to you guys. They're really all about helping you make smart choices in precious metals, and believe the more you know, the better, so that they offer you all these free guides and consultations in the hopes that they give you the information you need to make confident decisions with no pressure and no hard sell. Also, what's different, they will guarantee competitive pricing on some of the best quality and purity gold and silver you will find. You know you're getting a solid deal, folks, You don't have to worry about extra fees. They offer free shipping and insurance on all orders, including the one on the special for the People's Pundit viewers and listeners. They have dropped the requirements. A lot of these companies like 50 grand to get started, 20 grand to get started. Even Freedom Gold is $5. They have dropped that to just $500. Plus, they will put you in a prize pool and somebody's going to earn some free currency. And still, even on those orders, you will get free shipping and insurance. If you open up a new gold or silver IRA, you'll also get a $500 credit. I mean, that's a nice bonus. And here's the best part again. It's hassle-free and simple. You will not get any pushy sales tactics from Brian and his team. All right, they're all about helping you reach financial goals in a way that works for you. So give them a call. Numbers on the screen. 888-279-3592. 888-279-3592. That's right for us, but it still is great if you tell them the People's Pundit sent you. Or you can go to their website at freedomgoldusa.com/rich. Don't forget to add that last part. freedomgoldusa.com/rich. That is obviously the place where you're going to find out about all the deals related to us, but also you can go there and see what kind of special offers you may qualify for. There may be other deals. And again, the numbers on the screen, I'll give it to you again one more time, 888-279-3592 or freedomgoldusa.com/rich. All right. Let's try to make a video part of our coffee break. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but something for your entertainment purposes anyway. All right. Our old friend Alan Lichtman, right? Alan Lichtman, he is a Democratic hack, okay, an academic and author of The Keys. All right, this election forecast model, which he keeps claiming was always accurate, and that's not true. But let's pretend for a fact he does. Regardless, Alan has been on TV and talking to everyone and anyone who will listen to tell them that dumping Joe Biden will lead to electoral disaster. Folks, you cannot forget this. We have played numerous clips over the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks. Over the last almost 3 weeks now, we have played a clip from Alan Lichtman every week. And in those clips, he has been warning MSNBC, warning CNN. Now he's warning now he's on CNBC. If you dump Joe Biden, you will lose one of the fundamental keys in my very special model. And that you will lose. And the dumbest thing in the world you could do is get rid of the power of the incumbency. He also argued with Nate Silver on Twitter, and I cannot believe this because I can't stand Nate Silver. He's still like a little spiteful little prick. He had to again smear me in his little scorecard that nobody reads anymore. Bro, you're irrelevant. But I had to defend Nate on Twitter because Nate was right for a different reason than he thinks, but he nevertheless was right. Alan's keys, all right, don't take into consideration, because this was, by the way, just like 48 hours ago, folks. I mean, Alan changes with the drop of it. I don't know. It wasn't long ago. And he was still arguing that getting rid of Joe Biden's a bad idea. And and not only is he the strongest candidate, he's still favored to win. I kid you not. And that's what really Nate Silver was arguing about. And Nate Silver said your keys don't factor in for a senile candidate. And then he jumped in and said, well, FDR was capable of running the country and he had physical ailments. Alan, we're not talking about physical ailments here. Roosevelt was disabled physically, being the operative word. Joe Biden is mentally disabled. There's a big difference. But what's not different between these two presidencies is that the American media lied to the public for both of them. Why? Because they're Democrats. And they're the war machine party. They have always been, with the exception of the Bush years and the Bush Republican Party. The Democratic Party has always been the party of war, and Republicans have always been the party of no war. With the exception of George Bush, who came in and destroyed the image of the Republican Party. And then he destroyed the party. Left it in shambles until Donald Trump came along. Tapped the roots of the party and where they were always stood for putting America first, for American companies, for the American family, for the American soldier. We don't operate as if they're expendable. We don't go to war unless there's a vital U.S. interest. That was always the platform of the Republican Party outside of the Bush years. But the change, Rich, the flip, Rich, and the party's flipped. No, Joe Biden still delivered beautiful remarks at the funeral for the Grand Cyclops senator from West Virginia. Al Gore's father still has the record for the longest filibuster because he didn't want black people to have civil rights in 1964. All right, give me a break. And Lyndon Johnson still made a horrible remark when he signed that act on the backs of Republican senators who broke the filibuster of his own party. War party is the administrative states party. Anyway, it's going to be tricky because when you click off of CNBC, it stops playing the video. So somehow I'm going to have to do this without clicking back to you. Let's try to figure this out. And we'll be back after this. Remember, folks, our buddy Alan, for the last month, has been telling everybody that Joe Biden's the only way Democrats are going to win here. Now, Kamala Harris is in a strong position to win the presidency. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up.
It has profound effects on my prediction system that's been right since 1984, the 13 keys to the White House that tap into how...
Bro, Al Gore, bro, stop making that claim. Al Gore, homie.
Presidential elections in America really work as votes up or down on the strength and performance of the White House party. And if 6 or more of the keys fall against the party holding the White House, they're predicted losers. Fewer, there's predicted winners. Now, by Biden dropping out, they lose one of my keys, the incumbency key. However, they still have an opportunity to retain another key that Biden held, and that is the internal party contest key. If Democrats grow a spine and become smart, they will unite behind Harris and lock down the contest key. That means they only lose one additional key. Moreover, they avoid a situation of an open seat and a party contest that since 1900 has never resulted in the re-election of the White House party.
So, Alan, as it stands, if we did see that contest between Harris and Trump, are you prepared to make an independent prediction on who could possibly win?
I have not made a final prediction. I will right after the Democratic convention, but I can tell you exactly where things stand now and what to look for. Harris, presuming she becomes the consensus nominee and the Democrats don't have a crazy party fight, she is down 3 keys. Remember, 6 keys and you're out. The mandate key because of Democratic losses in the last midterm in U.S. House elections, incumbent charisma because she's no FDR, and of course, incumbency. That means 3 more keys would have to fall to predict their defeat. And right now there are 4 shaky keys: third party, social unrest, and foreign/military failure and success.
That's hold on, because I can never get through these things without saying like, that I gotta speak my piece here. Are you telling me, let's just look at social unrest. Are you telling me there is no social unrest in this country right now? There was just an assassination attempt on the former and likely future president. You're telling me that doesn't constitute for social unrest? Would the grassy knoll constitute as social unrest, Alan? Number two, would you constitute the Afghanistan withdrawal as a foreign policy failure? Would you constitute the failed war in Ukraine, which we are losing, as a foreign policy failure? Would you constitute what happened last October when Hamas invaded Israel and raped and killed and maimed women and children as a foreign policy failure? This model is bullshit. It's completely subjective. It is Alan's opinion. There's nothing objective about these variables. Presidential approval rating is an objective variable. Demographic voting behavior and history is a objective variable. Economic data, which he fudges, is an objective variable. Would you consider this a strong economy, Alan? Did you see the weekly jobless claims last week? Would you consider this a strong economy when more people since the pandemic shutdown are on long-term unemployment insurance? When not a single manufacturing, construction, or mining job was created last month, would you consider this a strong economy? Because rich people are getting richer on the Dow does not make it a strong economy. The market's not even the same thing. The Challenger report, have you looked at it? Is that many job losses predictive of a strong economy? We're still trying to dig ourselves out of the GDP hole from the brilliant idea to shut down the damn economy during a pandemic. Partisan voting index is an objective variable. Hell, even polling is subjective. But honestly, would getting your ass kicked in every poll over the last 2 years be a key, Alan?
Those are the keys to keep your eyes on in the coming weeks. And 3 out of the 4.
Oh, wait a minute. The border. She's literally the border czar. Would you not consider that a policy failure? Being accused of being senile and covering it up. Would you consider that scandal? Because that's one of your keys. Trump's keys were plagued with scandal. Even though they were fake and fabricated, would you consider the very real event of her covering up Joe Biden's senility as a scandal? Hold on. What about banging Willie all the way up the ladder? Is that a scandal?
Fall to predict the Democrats' defeat. So while I'm in no position yet to make a final prediction, certainly based on a system that's been right for 40 years, as opposed to top of the head punditry, which has no more value than sports talk radio.
He just said that same line. Radio show punditry and talk show punditry has no more value than sports radio or whatever. He just used that same corny ass line in the video clip that we played almost 2 weeks ago when he was saying that if Joe Biden is pushed out, Democrats will lose the presidency. Does everybody remember that, or is it just me? These people are incredible.
Harris would be in a strong position to win this upcoming election.
What a fucking hack. Folks, what a hack. You can't make this stuff up. I just played the clip. He even used the same stupid line. Holy crap. In which way he argued that Kamala and none of them None of them have the keys on their side. Only Joe Biden does. And by the way, incumbency is the strongest key. Remember that? That's what the keys show. They're much more valuable than punditry, talking heads, and TV show punditry, which is just as valuable as sports radio. You can't make this shit up. These people have no shame. Zero. None. Holy crap. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And don't forget, if you like the videos, like them, share them far and wide. And of course, subscribe. Cross-subscribe. It helps enormously for the 2 A's, not the keys, which you can take and stick up your ass. The 2 A's, algorithms and advertisers. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more. All right. I'm going to do this maybe a minute and a half. Sound good? Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. God. This fucking guy. The key. First time I heard about it, I was 19 years old. Yeah, he was like one of the biggest modelers around back then. And he was like, Al Gore can't lose. Al Gore can't lose. And I'm like, what about the polls, Alan? The polls mean nothing. Al Gore can't lose. Well, my dad said that Bush is going to win. What do you think of that? Sports talk radio. Sports talk radio. Fucking idiot. Yeah, I'm ready whenever you want. Got my coffee. Hi, my name's Alan Lichtman. And if you put any money in my pocket, I'll say whatever you want. All right, we're back to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit, and I'm your host, the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. Don't forget, if you like the videos, like them, share them far and wide. Link to the public polling projects in the description below. New national poll campaigns up, and I'm glad we did not pull the trigger on Georgia. I should probably not say that, right? I'm glad we kept the powder dry on Georgia because we will go back in now and see what's going on in the state of Georgia. I'll even maybe we'll get some potential names circulating. But if we don't, then, well, first of all, we have to wait. Again, I'm telling you, like, the rules anyway, not that they care about the rules. They can't have this open contested convention like they're talking. They can't do it. They have got to get behind Kamala Harris. The committee name is already changed. We already have some big players coming out. And one of them was Barack Obama's right-hand man. In fact, he was the source of the model that would become known as Nate Silver's 538 model, which really had absolutely no model at all. It was David Plouffe giving Nate Silver polling information that Nate Silver believed to be more accurate than the public polling. And that is what made Nate Silver, who, by the way, was a sports handicapper before this. That's why Alan doesn't like him. There you go. Not enough hacks on the left to share the space. I mean, too many hacks on the left to share the space. We got to push each other out and fight amongst ourselves. Until, of course, they're aligned in their... Until, of course, their interests are aligned in the narrative BS campaign that we talked about largely through the first hour. That's how Democrats win elections. They don't win elections by persuasion in the traditional sense. They don't win elections by having competent candidates. Not anymore. They don't need that anymore. They're in the era of information. They use big tech and big media to give them a handicap. what we call the media handicap. We're not very creative here, folks. We just call it how it is. We name these things what they are. What's that other clip we seem to have missed? Hold on one second, guys. Let me just see something. Oh, it is him. Never mind. We can get rid of that now. Peace out, Alan. Peace out, homie. And then there's this one. What's this? Oh, that's it. We did that. Peace out. I do want to talk about the Secret Service hearing too. I just don't know that we're going to have enough time to do it. Unbelievable. They're trying to make this about gun control. Oh, real quick. This idea that Joe Biden, at least we'll see how many people jump on the bandwagon, but I do want to just put up this Speaker Johnson immediately call for Joe Biden to resign at this unprecedented juncture in American history. We must be clear about what just happened. The Democratic Party forced the Democrat nominee off the ballot just over 100 days before the election, having invalidated the votes of more than 14 million Americans who, and I disagree with the wording here, selected Joe Biden. I would have said elected Joe Biden to be the Democratic nominee for president. The self-proclaimed party of democracy has proven exactly the opposite. The party's prospects are no better now, with Vice President Kamala Harris, who co-owns the disastrous policy failures of the Biden administration. As second in command and a completely inept border czar, Harris has been a gleeful accomplice, not only in the destruction of American sovereignty, security, and prosperity, but also in the largest political cover-up in U.S. history. She has long known for as long as anyone of his incapacity to serve. Regardless of the chaos in the current White House, our adversaries around the globe should be reminded that the U.S. Congress, the U.S. military, and the American people are fully prepared and committed to defend our interests both at home and abroad. If Joe Biden is not fit to run for president, he is not fit to serve as president. He must resign the office immediately. November 5th cannot arrive soon enough. And I got to tell you, folks, I don't know how they're going to keep this up. Republicans absolutely should put the pressure on for two reasons. One is the world needs to know she's not competent though, but she's also not senile. The world needs to know there isn't a senile old man at the helm of the most powerful nation on earth at the moment. Actually, I would argue we probably are not anymore, but we serve that role still. All of this talk about the security of our allies in 2020, another big scam. So I'm going to strengthen NATO. NATO was stronger under Donald Trump. I mean, his financial budget is public every year. NATO was stronger under Donald Trump. And by the way, we bled literally bled NATO dry for a non-NATO member. And now we're back to some of the most powerful nations in NATO free riding off of the United States and not paying their fucking bill. Germany is delinquent. Poland pays. Somebody else, one other one pays and always does pay. I'll get it for you. I want to say, believe it's was. They got it. I'm trying to remember. I don't think the UK is current. I think they're back to being delinquent as of last year. Because everybody had to get current under Trump. Even the Germans were paying up. Not anymore. We're back to this now. But what happened to all that talk? NATO allies have to feel safe. You think they feel safe with this situation? Where is the president? He's not even out and about. I don't know how you continue to survive as being president. So that's number one. Republicans should keep them out, should keep pushing for Joe Biden to resign. But also, this is a political one. And sometimes you just got to play shrewd politically. They should put her ass in the White House and show the American people, show the American public how truly incompetent this woman is. It's going to be a shit show, but isn't it already? What risks do we really take as a nation? There's a senile guy and a bunch of mini tyrants running the damn White House right now. What else could go wrong here, folks? What else could go wrong? Honestly. They tried to imprison their political opponents, including the guy who is literally their political opponent. Not just a little guy. They failed at every major thing they've tried to do. She failed at the border, but that was not a salvageable situation given Democratic policy. Democratic policy is failing the border, not any one person. She's an idiot, sure, a total moron. But even if she was the most competent person on planet Earth, she still would have failed to get the border under control because she's operating within the parameters of Democratic policy. And the policy itself is failing policy. You would need to go back to Trump's policy to not fail at the border. It's that simple. The problem is policy, not the people. But I would say push Biden out all the way, put her ass in there because she's number 2, and then just turn and go American public. Exhibit A. It's that simple. This is not hard. Referring back to the polling project in 2020, even before her honeymoon ended, we asked people whether or not they were comfortable with the idea that Kamala Harris is a Joe Biden heartbeat away from the presidency. A majority said they were uncomfortable with the idea of Kamala Harris assuming the presidency. More than 4 in 10 were very uncomfortable on the scale. I would just, honestly, I'm just going to be honest. I'd exploit the shit out of that discomfort. I think you're stupid if you don't. I think the Trump campaign left too much on the table in 2020, even though the whole thing was rigged against them. I still think that should have been a big thing. Joe Biden is senile. He could kick the bucket tomorrow, and this woman is going to be your president. They didn't do it, even though the polling data was so strong on it. So strong. Too many consultants in 2020. Too many consultants. Too many consultants. All right. But none of this, of course, matters when it comes to who is going to be the Democratic nominee if the Obama team doesn't get on board. And that's why I'm going to return back to David Plouffe. Are you ready?
Kamala Harris is going to be our nominee. And so I think at the end of the day, the DNC will lay out what that process will be. If any other candidates were to suggest that they run, I don't think they will be major threats to Kamala Harris. So I think the general election 2.0, for all intents and purposes, starts today, and that's Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. So I think the focus from my standpoint, yes, there's some particulars and some technocratic things to work out, but the focus needs to be on the general election, which is we are going to have a
particulars and technical things, he says? You mean like the laws, David? The laws? Particulars? You're shitting me. You have got to be shitting me. You have got to get her anointed at this convention. You simply cannot do it any other way. You can't do it. If all hell breaks out at this convention, they're not going to be on the state of Ohio. This needs to be done and settled. There will be other states that will give you problems. We've gone over them before. You cannot have this fight in August. Can't do it, man. He knows it. He ain't dumb. This guy is not dumb. That's why he's on TV doing this right now. Why isn't his boss? As a matter of fact, real quick before I finish playing the video, let's go visit Barack Obama's X page again real quick and see what he has to say. 21 hours ago, my statement on President Biden's announcement, we'll get that after we're done here. He's a patriot of the highest order. What a load of crap, my dearest friend. He can't stand Joe Biden. Is anyone else over the friggin' charades that they just do all the time. Is anyone else over them? Wouldn't it be a breath of fresh air if he was just like, I hate that senile old bastard, and I'm glad he's gone. I pushed him out. Roo-ha. Hoo-ah, baby. Wouldn't that be great? I don't know. It's hoo for us. Hoorah, whatever the hell they say. I remember when that stupid old goat told me not to kill Osama bin Laden. What an idiot. Wouldn't that be just a breath of fresh air? I'd high five Barack Obama if he did that. I'd high five him, dude. In fact, I'd give him a pound if he was like, remember the time I had to bench that moron when I told him not to create panic during H1N1, and the first thing he did was go on USA Today and create panic, or Good Morning America, I think it was, actually. Oh, man. He gets some nuts for that, dude.
Harris-Trump matchup. And Donald Trump, I still think, should be considered a slight favorite in that matchup. But Kamala Harris, I think, really scrambles this race. And I think will create great excitement and enthusiasm, both amongst the Democratic Party, but also voters more broadly, who I think are going to be excited that there's a new matchup here. We know for over a year, voters have said
that's a big development. Hold on. Thanks, buddy. That's a big development. So that's the other two names I was just going to, was Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. Once Joe Biden lost Nancy Pelosi, because I already knew and we already talked about it. I told you that I was told immediately. It was like almost day one after the debate. Chuck Schumer was publicly standing with Joe Biden, but privately he was not. And he was telling people that Joe Biden had to go. And I talked to you about it. Sean Parnell and I had a conversation about it, both on his show and mine. And I told you, once Schumer goes public, that's when it's going to get shaky for Joe. Pelosi also was a huge turn in these events. And now Pelosi has just endorsed Kamala Harris, which I was expecting to happen before Schumer, because they're not going to try. They don't want to fracture the California delegation. They want to make sure that everybody's on the same page in the Golden State, which of course is where Pelosi and Harris and Newsom, by the way, are from. Newsom is not an idiot. He immediately kept supporting Joe Biden. He doesn't care one way or the other how this thing goes, because he's going to run for president in 2028. Newsom's a lot of things, but he's not this stupid. He does not want to run against Donald Trump. He couldn't even debate Ron DeSantis. All right. He's not going to run against Donald Trump. He'd rather run against Ron DeSantis. He'd rather run against maybe even J.D. Vance. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I would not want to run against J.D. Vance if I was a Democrat. Despite what you're going to hear Rachel Maddow and others say, oh, where's my Maddow clip? Oh, crap. Maddow is saying that this is it. We're united behind Harris. We're going to beat Donald Trump now, blah, blah, blah. J.D. Vance is radical. Donald Trump picked the most radical person he could pick. It's a load of crap. They're scared shitless, and they're going to say one thing, but they're absolutely going to believe and think another. Maddow is Maddow. She is a hit person on TV for the Democratic Party. She's there to keep Democratic voters from losing their shit, from keeping them from totally having a meltdown and quitting, just giving up. And she said the party's united. And the truth is, are they? I mean, or are the Democratic elites and donors united? That's a very big difference. There's a very big difference between that and the party itself being united. The grassroots picked Joe Biden to run again. And this is something we have to mention before I finish this, because I'll forget. If you were a Democratic voter, and for my Democratic voters out there, if you voted for Joe Biden, I want to ask you if you're angry. You were lied to. They played you. If you're going to be any kind of like an honest person, you'll admit you got played. You got played like a fiddle. And they lied to you since at least 2020, depending just on the election stuff, election related stuff. They've been lying to you since at least 2020. Are you angry? I know that they're basically a party of it's a hive mind kind of mentality over for Democrats, and we know that, but it's not 100%. What percentage of Democrats are going to be so furious about this that they're either not going to vote or they're going to cross the aisle? Let's be real, or throw their vote away. Third party, one of Valens Keys. There's a Manhattan Institute poll out today that shows that with Biden and Harris head to head, Trump's up. He's up by a few points over both of them. But when you add those third parties into the mix, Trump's lead blows up. I'm talking about national lead. If they're right, if they're correct, that could very well be the result of these people, Democrats, just being furious. And they don't like either one of them. They're not going to vote for either one of them because they're not going to condone what they told them with the lie that was told to them. Lies, plural. They're not going to condone that. All right, let's finish David Plouffe and move on.
Excited about this matchup, and I think despite Joe Biden's great accomplishments as president, this I think is going to really be a.
There you go again. I just want to stop and point that out. Okay, Joe Biden's great accomplishments as president. That's all part of the narrative war that I've been trying to explain to you. They all want to get into a position where this loss isn't because of their policies or their behavior or what they've done to the country and the American public and our institutions that they have destroyed, the rule of law that they have destroyed, the faith in the presidency and the FBI and in the military that they have destroyed, in the courts that they have destroyed, in the electoral process that they have destroyed. They can't allow it to be about any of that. The economy that they destroyed, they cannot allow that to be the story. Joe Biden's got to be this great figure who accomplished so much. It's because of his senility, and then they're going to say that Harris did good, but she couldn't overcome the trajectory the race was on, and it's all because of Joe Biden's mental fitness, and the country just got unsure about Democrats and their ability to run things because of Joe. And if you're Joe Biden, man, Jill, you should be ashamed of yourself, man. Your whole family's going to go down in disgrace now. And by the way, she's got a bag full of money. They held out until Joe Biden got a bag full of money and they got assurances that they can pardon their family on the way out. Hunter's getting a pardon. Jim Biden is getting a pardon. They're going to make sure that they cannot be prosecuted federally because he would not have left unless he had those assurances. One of his biggest insurance policies was running for president. Without that, he's got nothing. The family's got nothing, and they're in great, great legal peril. So he got that. And no doubt Jill's walking away with a bag full of money.
Wake-up call both for the Democratic Party, but I think gives a lot of energy to the candidates, the volunteers out there, the grassroots donors. What is required for a Democrat to win the presidency, I cannot overestimate how hard it is, okay? Most battleground states, there are more conservatives than liberals, and Republicans get more reliable turnout than Democrats, although...
Half right. And only, by the way, the statement that he led with is only half right. You're not getting the grassroots on your side with this move. The grassroots voted for Joe Biden. There was a faction within the grassroots that were voting uncommitted. By the way, does Kamala Harris fix the Biden problem? The problem that Biden had, now it's her problem, with that faction in the party that was voting uncommitted and voting for none of these candidates because of Hamas. Does that fix their problem? No. Was Harris ever more anti-Semitic than Joe Biden? I don't know. I don't see that. Maybe you can show me some clips. But with this now today, that's why I picked this Plouffe statement, by the way. And I don't know if you want me to blurt your name out on TV, but thanks for that real-time breaking news update, because that's very important to what we're talking about today. I picked this clip from David Plouffe because before Obama actually says anything public, he's going to send out his surrogates that are his inner circle surrogates like Axelrod and Plouffe and others. And they're going to kind of pave the way for things that he says. And there are also signals to people like Schumer and Pelosi. This is the direction that we're going in. And Obama still runs the Democratic Party. He does. Again, it's a real shame, man. Joe's legacy, which is destroyed. It will be destroyed by the time all of this is over. It's a real shame. He's going to go down as the illegitimate president who Barack Obama made president and then ended as president. He's like, I'm trying to think of a political figure from the past, maybe like a Buchanan or something. I mean, he's a joke of a president like this. He was never in charge of his own fate or destiny. He was never the captain of his own ship. No Invictus for him, dude. It's like the reverse. It's like the opposite. He's the animated corpse that people took turns sticking their hands up his ass to direct. That's who Joe Biden is. That's who he's going to be. That's who he is. That's how he's going to be remembered. What a shame. What a tragedy.
We're starting to match them. So you got to win the middle, and you got to do great on turnout. And I think what Kamala Harris allows us to do is
That's another thing. That analysis that he just gave, he knows is not true. Republicans do not have more reliable turnout than Democrats now. It used to be the case, but ever since the realignment has occurred or started to occur, these Trump voters come out during presidential elections. But as we saw in 2022, it is actually not the case. What is the case is that Democrats have a more educated, affluent vote now. They come out at higher rates, and it is it's them, that will have the turnout, or typically will have the turnout advantage. It is because of the Trump or bust voter that they get a harder task during presidential elections now, because he draws out these votes that once upon a time David's boss used to draw out. He didn't do bad. Barack Obama did not do bad with white working class voters. In fact, the reason he was elected was not because of the power of the Latino vote, who voted at lower rates than other, for instance, other racial and ethnic groups. They vote at much higher rates as a percentage of their eligible voting population. He won because of specifically Black women voting at very high rates and voting unanimously for him. And then also by doing slightly better with them, better. I don't want to say slightly, by doing better with the white working class in battleground states than polls suggested he would. By the way, Joe Biden did better with working class whites than Hillary Clinton. And that's what helped him in states like Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin. And that's why what David is saying is not true. And again, I would put this out there to you. When deciding whether or not Kamala Harris is going to be a stronger candidate than Joe Biden would have been, even the senile Joe Biden, I would ask you, who is going to do better in these counties where that vote matters and matters a lot? Who's going to do better in Juneau County, Wisconsin? Who's going to do better in Macomb County, Michigan? Who? Is it going to be Kamala Harris or Joe Biden? Give me a break. This isn't even close. Does she run stronger in Ashland, Bayfield, and Douglas in northwestern Wisconsin, and what we call lumberjack country in northwestern Wisconsin? Does she run stronger than Joe Biden there? What about the Iron Range in Minnesota? What about the rest of Minnesota, southeastern Minnesota, including Olmsted County? Who's going to run better there? Hell, I'd even argue at this point in the suburbs outside of the Twin Cities, Dakota, Washington. Who's going to run better there? Give me a break, guys. Give me a break. She's going to run better in California. I would argue she will. I would argue that. I'd be shocked if she did. But I don't think she'll even run as good as Joe Biden in New York. Battleground counties are what's going to fix it here, of course. But I think that it's very clear from the polling over 2 years, and then just frankly common sense. There was an article before Democrats selected again their nominee in 2020. There was an article from 538 Nate Silver himself arguing that Kamala Harris was somehow going to do better with the working class vote in the Midwest, that she would be a strong Midwest candidate. I objected to it and argued against it vigorously. She didn't even make it to a single voter. Not a single voter. Genesee County, who's going to do better there? Saginaw, who's going to do better there? Come on. Even Republican counties like Monroe. I would actually argue that there are some affluent suburbs outside of Detroit where Joe Biden still would have done better than Kamala Harris. She's not likable. And Joe Biden lost his favorability, don't get me wrong, but Harris was always less popular or less looked upon less favorably than Joe Biden. Only post-debate did some of that change a little. But look at the one poll where that actually they clung to this poll, clung to it. Maybe we'll show that after because I do want to go to the polling a little bit later, but it's only 2 polls where Harris ever led Donald Trump. The whole Real Clear Politics aggregation. There are only 2 polls, and one of them was recent, even though everyone else had Harris down. And that's the ABC News Washington Post poll. The one that junked Gary Langer for the Ipsos panel, because even though I'm told Gary's still overseeing the data, I don't know about that. It wouldn't matter anyway, because the Ipsos panel sucks. The panel itself is a problem. I could oversee the panel data from Ipsos, and it's still going to be a problem because the data is the problem. The panel's the problem. Is it appended to the voter file? Are you deduping? Are you matching? Are you doing anything like that? Are you appending the data from the Ipsos panel? You're not. And you're incentivizing people to take surveys who are going to tell you they're eligible for that survey because they want to get a damn gift card to Kohl's. Like they're not going to vote. So in any event, and let me just thank somebody for that little tidbit. In any event, that's where we're at. But we'll go and we'll look and we'll see. And for the totality of the data is that she was always the weaker candidate. All right, I'll let him finish his thought and then we'll move on because we do have to move on. I got one more quick break to take, and then we have to get to it.
Seen poll after poll. There was another one in Michigan today that showed our Democratic Senate candidates doing far better than our presidential matchup. And I think that gap narrows pretty quickly as it becomes clear she's going to be the nominee. So I know that Donald Trump and his campaign say they're ready for Kamala Harris. I'm sure we'll see some nasty ads soon. But this is not the race they wanted. This is not the race they planned for. Donald Trump's now the oldest nominee in Republican history. He's showing a lot of decline, a lot of erraticness.
That's really desperate, David. You guys really are afraid, aren't you, David? You're really afraid. I can see it in your eyes. You're scared. Like legitimately afraid. That's like primal fear. I see it in everyone's eyes. In every clip we played today. In every clip we played today from Democrats, what you saw was fear. And that's leading them to make really stupid decisions. And at this point, they're suiciding Kamala because they think she's an idiot too. She has no future. She's forever going to be the vice presidential nominee of the disgraced president, the disgraced, illegitimate, senile president. So the smart thing to do, if you're thinking like that, would be to make sure that she, with somebody who also doesn't have a political future, but can help you try to at least salvage some of the blowout. Notice he didn't say, I think Kamala is going to take the lead. He said, I think you're going to see that narrow a little. Even he doesn't expect her to take a lead. They're throwing Kamala to the wolves because she doesn't have any prospects, political prospects. Honestly, fear leads you to make stupid decisions. If it was me, if I had the choice to make, I would have run Joe anyway because A, the totality of the data shows that he still was the strongest candidate. And B, you could have blamed Joe's dementia for the loss. You didn't have to put it on somebody else. They decided, I don't want to lose that badly. If we're going to lose, I want to save a little bit of face. I don't want to lose that badly. I can spin this. And we don't have to we don't have to defend our policies, our actions, our record. And when I say that, I mean everything, like how they governed, which people disapprove of, but also how they behaved, how they acted, stepping over one line after another, crossing one Rubicon after another. The damage they did or tried to do to the office of the president forever. The immunity argument, removing Donald Trump from ballots, using state officials, trying to prosecute him based on novel legal theories that are absolutely ridiculous, getting people to leave Maine justice to go with fat ass Alvin Bragg and prosecute him over something that's not even a crime. They can't have the election be a referendum on those actions and on their ability or lack thereof to govern and satisfy the population with their governance. See, ultimately, this is the problem this country has right now. We have a crisis of credibility. We have regime credibility. Half the country thinks the regime is not legitimate. That's number one. The other half, who is willing to say, okay, maybe they are legitimate, doesn't look at them as credible because they're not doing a good job governing the country. The ruling class has had this problem for a long time. That is why Donald Trump is as popular as he is and was even elected president the first time around. It's because we lack regime credibility. Too many people are not being represented. Too many people are not only that, but they're actively on a daily basis being hurt by the government's actions. And they're just looking for a way out here where the election does not become a referendum on those actions, on that inability to govern, on that lack of credibility, on that illegitimacy. But again, I still disagree with how they did it. I do, but it is what it is. All right, let's take a real quick last minute break, and then we'll get back to a couple. I got like two more things I want to try to get through with you. Look, AstraZeneca recently admitted in court that the COVID-19 vaccine could result in life-threatening blood clots. Do you remember the Four Freedoms poll we ran with Barnes? The number of people who said that they have been hurt by the vaccine, when they know somebody or they themselves have been severely injured, disabled, or even knew somebody who died from the vaccine. You would never get those numbers from flu shots. All right, the admission by AstraZeneca is the first of its kind. It will not be the last after the damage we've seen these vaccines cause. The question now is, if you got the vaccine, what can you do about it? Fortunately, Dr. Peter McCullough and his team at the Wellness Company have been leading experts in treating vaccine injury and long COVID since the early on period of this. The word is not even a sufficient word. This was a self-inflicted catastrophe. Self-inflicted. Their research has shown that nattokinesia, alongside with bromelain and curcumin derived from turmeric, has great potential in detoxifying side effects. Where can you find these? In Dr. Peter McCullough's published base spike detox trio, which is now the gold standard for combating spike protein. To date, tens of thousands of people have followed Dr. McCullough's protocol and have taken base spike detox trio from the Wellness Company. And the results have been nothing short of miraculous. I've had countless people call me and tell me, thank you for advertising this. I'm so glad I found this product. But honestly, folks, you could go and look on the website and the reviews yourself. They really do speak for themselves. All right. I mean, it can speak more than I can. The powerful combination of these three is 100% natural. And the recommendation by the Wellness Company's medical board is about a 3 to 6 month regimen, actually, that will get you back to the pre-COVID feeling. All right. So look, reclaim your health by going to twc.health/TPP. The link is in the description to this and all the great products that we know the Wellness Company has and that Laura and I have ourselves purchased and we have here at our house. Use the code TPP to get yourself 10% off and free shipping. It's an extremely important conversation, folks, that not enough people are having. Spike protein is the culprit behind a whole host of these long-term health issues, and we're seeing it happen in real time. We've polled it. We've actually polled it. So again, the link is in the description, but I'll give it to you one more time, twc.health/TPP. If you see me and my pretty little self there, you know that you have gone to the right place. twc.health/TPP. By the way, that code works on the kits as well, which look at the variety of colors. Fantastic. All right. 148. Do we have enough time to go through Obama's statement? I would like to do so. Let's do it real quick. I have 2 more clips I want to share. I'm not going to be able to get through them. I don't think so. First person on Locals who got there said when we had the video popped up, first comment was so much news, so much. And I said, so little time. I knew this was going to happen. I have a lot more that want to say. We're really, really getting to the point now where this show has to be every day. Even if we have to shorten the length of the show. One day I go an hour, one day I go an hour and a half, one day I go 2 hours, like we always do. I really have to get to a point. It is already, we're here already. I just have to get the scheduling in place. But this really has to become a daily thing. There will be daily polls. We need to daily talk about the public polling project to make sure that we're funded and we don't have fund something and not get to a project. That's like my worst nightmare. All right. So we have to do this. It's almost time. By the way, the link to that is also in the description below. 1 second. All right. This is Barack Obama's statement. My statement on President Biden's announcement. This thing is riddled with horseshit. Wait till you hear this. You guys know, because I've told you, the true nature of the relationship that these men have. And it is nowhere near what he pretends that it is. It's just not even close to being accurate or true. And again, wouldn't it be nice if somebody was just honest for once? Joe Biden has been one of America's most consequential presidents, as well as my dear friend and partner to me. I would say he is consequential for all of the wrong reasons. He will be remembered as inconsequential later if the country rights the ship. If the country does not right the ship, he will unfortunately be kind of like a forgotten presidency, and that will be it. He will not be consequential in the fact that, like Trump, he put up the telescope that allowed us to identify a project that Obama himself scrapped so they could fund Obamacare. But that telescope allowed us, the launching of it, thank God, allowed us to identify planets that are like ours in the universe, something that we're going to need as a species to survive eventually. Maybe we don't. But at least, learning and having this technology and learning this stuff gives us a fighting chance. We'll see how it goes, though. We'll be long dead when that happens. But people will remember something like that. It could possibly be consequential for all the wrong reasons. He's the first to try to persecute and prosecute his political opponents. That becomes common practice, and we remain a banana republic, which is what he is. He has made us into right now. Thank God. There was still enough constitutional deference that it appears that lawfare has failed outside of New York, which I think will be tossed anyway. But again, he's inconsequential outside from the negative things that he has done, and that's really scary. And by the way, the other part of this that's not true is he's not a dear friend of Barack Obama, and he's not been a partner. Even when he was his vice president, he could not stand him, and neither can Hillary Clinton. It's bullshit. 16 years ago, when I began my search for a vice president, I was looking for an old white guy that would put the electorate at rest. That's what it should have said if you wanted to be true. But instead he wrote, I knew about Joe's remarkable career in public service. Okay, when you were vetting him, you didn't find the clip where he said that I'm a political whore and I will do whatever. If you give me money, I will do whatever you want me to do. Your vetting team did not find the multiple times you wanted to run for president, but some scandal or another, and the fact that he's a plagiarist, etc., deemed him unqualified to be president of the United States. You didn't find that. Your announcement had nothing to do with political considerations instead of what you're saying. When I came to admire more was his character. Yeah, okay. His deep empathy and hard-earned resilience. He had empathy to his daughter that he gave to political actors. This is disgusting. His fundamental decency and belief that everyone counts. Since taking office, President Biden has displayed that character again and again. He helped end the pandemic, created millions of jobs, lowered the cost of prescription drugs. Trump did the insulin, cut the shit. Stop taking credit for that. Passed the first major piece of gun safety legislation in 30 years, made the biggest investment to address climate change in history, and fought to ensure the rights of working people to organize for fair wages and benefits. What on earth is he talking about? Internationally, he restored America's standing in the world, revitalized NATO. None of this is true. I really don't. Let's cut the bullshit and just say, I know he's never backed down for a fight. Okay, here we go. Here it is. Joe understands better than anyone the stakes in this election, how everything he has fought for throughout his life and everything that the Democratic Party stands for will be at risk if we allow Donald Trump back in the White House and give Republicans control of Congress. Well, Republicans are getting the Senate, so that's the end of that. The question is how they will do, how many seats they will get, and whether or not they can maintain or expand their control in the House. I also know Joe has never backed down from a fight. For him to look at the political landscape and decide that he should pass the torch to a new nominee is surely one of the toughest in his life. But I know he wouldn't make this decision unless he believed it was right for America. That's BS. It was when Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer plunged 3 knives in his back, the 3 knives that matter. That's when he made the decision. It's not a testament to his love of country. It's a testament to how much of a dirtbag, Barack Obama can be. He betrayed his own vice president in 2016 because he thinks Joe's an idiot. Joe wanted to run for president in 2016. He said, no, you have to let Hillary. Joe, you're going to lose. You're a moron. That's the truth. And now he installs him as president after he starts to go senile. I don't even, man, that's the end of this. The hell with this, dude. I can't take this anymore. I honestly can't. Last thing I want to just end with, I can't read it anymore. I just can't read it. I've said my piece. You guys know where I stand with this. If Barack Obama stood by his side, he'd still be the nominee. And 15 million voters would not have had their votes thrown in the trash. When Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer betrayed Joe Biden, who they already knew was senile, that's when he lost the support of the donor class. And it became about burning bridges and the survival of the Biden legacy. And maybe this will be the better way for us to move forward. I can secure pardons. They're going to allow me that. This will be an easy way out without any pushback. The media will cover for me if I do this now. Again, you're going to find me less and less tolerant of charades and narratives as we move on. Last thing I want to talk about, speaking of which, is how we're about to try to turn the assassination into Donald Trump about, are you ready? Are you ready? Gun control.
Friends on one particular side of the aisle don't really want to talk about, like AR-15s and access to them by a 20-year-old.
Oh my God. This is Representative Connolly, by the way, in case you guys don't know who this is. This guy is a gun hater, has long been a Second Amendment hater. What the hell is he talking about? The shooter's father purchased this firearm legally. And a 20-year-old, what does that mean? One thing Rick Scott did that I was like super, super, super disappointed in Rick Scott was cave after the school shooting. after Parkland, and he allowed Democrats to push the gun control narrative, and 18 to 21-year-olds lost their ability to purchase rifles in the state of Florida. It was a very, very disappointing moment for me. Let me get this straight. 18-year-olds can vote. 18-year-olds can join the military and go die for one of these bullshit wars. But they can't enjoy the rights that are afforded to them by the Second Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, in the Bill of Rights? What you're basically saying is we're a nation of immature little babies and we don't trust you? It has nothing to do with an individual basis and their own personal right to self-defense and their duty and obligation to understand what that means. Because as Jefferson always made clear, no right is to be enjoyed which does not have an equal or greater duty or obligation attached to it. You want the right to defend yourself? Fine. It's also your duty and obligation to be responsible with firearms, to learn how to use firearms, to learn how to be safe with firearms. I mean, to turn this into gun control when this is really about putting a woman in position who's not qualified, when this is about incomprehensible errors that look more like giving a window of opportunity to very bad people to kill the Republican nominee for president intentionally than it does about gun control.
Anybody for that matter. Presumably, Director Cheadle, the ubiquity of weapons, guns in America, especially assault weapons or semi-automatic weapons, that's helped your job and the mission of your agencies, right? It's made it less complicated. Isn't that true?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
It doesn't make sense because, and I even have to defend her here. What he's asking doesn't make sense. He's asking it the wrong way. He means, did it make your job harder? He's so stupid, he doesn't even know how to properly ask the question. He's so ignorant over firearms, he doesn't realize how to phrase the damn question. That's special. This is some kind of champion, folks.
Question.
Real simple. More guns,
really,
especially dangerous ones, have made your job protecting people easier. Is that not right?
I think from every
Director Cheater, this is simple English. More guns.
Not the way you're asking it,
do
dummy.
they make your job more complicated or less complicated in protecting these 36 clients and visiting heads of state and heads of government that come to Washington?
I think the Secret Service needs to take into account.
I didn't ask that.
They're in.
I'm sorry. I asked a simple question, which deserves a simple answer. The ubiquity of guns, dangerous weapons in America, like AR-15s, has that made your job, that is to say the mission of the Secret Service, easier or more difficult?
I think the threat environment for protecting our Secret Service protectees is always difficult, and that's dynamic, and it's always evolving.
We stipulate it's always difficult. Again, this is a simple one.
You're not even asking it correctly. For what he's trying to accomplish, he's too stupid to realize that he's asking the question backward. He's asking the question backward. And then there is one exchange. Do I have time for it? I mean, I'll be a little bit over too. But you know what? You guys all see what I'm talking about here. If I was to, it's after 2 o'clock. If I was to cut it now, then basically we can kind of take it out with the rest of the clip that I wanted to show. I don't know where this woman came from. I mean, she's a different woman than the woman that came to Congress. And holy moly, she's on fire. I don't know that I trust her. I just don't know yet. But the more people Republicans get to stand up and behave like this, the better of a fighting chance they have against what they're up against. And I'm going to play that clip as we roll out. All right, but we can get rid of Representative Dumbass, who doesn't realize, again, that what he's saying is backward to what he's trying to accomplish. But Guam tips over because there are too many firearms on the island. I mean, this stupid shit you'll hear out of these people, folks, is never going to end. I mean, it should never cease to amaze you. All right. All right. Before we go ahead and play this last clip, let me just say and take it out here. Don't forget to like the videos if you like them and share them far and wide. Subscribe if you're not subscribed right now to whatever channel you're watching it on. And of course, if it would be great if you're on YouTube, for instance, if you would roll on over to Rumble and do the same. It helps with the 2A's, algorithms and advertisers. And the best place, as always, to follow us is right here on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. I'm going to put that little survey thing up on Locals like right after this program. We'll see what you guys want to do, what direction you guys want to move in when it comes to polling. Again, I'm glad I did not pull the trigger on polling before we had a chance to be relevant to what is going on here. Okay, so we made the right decision. All right, but again, always special thanks to our advertisers. I'm feeling like I'm forgetting something here. I don't think so. Keep an eye on social media to see what the media appearances are like this week. There's a bunch of requests. Laura's filling it out right now. So, and of course, always Savage Wednesdays with Sean Parnell. But that's separate from that. All right, so I'm going to leave it here. And instead of the music, we'll just rock on out with a clip from Nancy Mace during the very same hearing today. This is brutal, so get ready for it. I got sent a bunch of clips and then eventually decided, let's take the long version and roll out with it. All right. So here's Nancy Mace questioning Director Cheadle.
Answers. Most of my questions are going to demand a yes or no answer. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay. My first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter? Yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question. Yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible.
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure? Yes or no?
Yes.
Was this tragedy preventable? Yes or no?
Yes.
Has the Secret Service been transparent with this committee?
Yes.
Would you say the fact that we had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today as being transparent? Yes or no?
I have always been
yes
eager
or
to
no?
come
You didn't
and
want to
talk
answer
to
the question.
committee.
We had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today. That is not transparent.
I just have to break. How outrageous is that? How outrageous is it that the former president and likely future president was almost killed? He was almost assassinated. And these sons of bitches don't feel any obligation to you whatsoever to even show up on their own accord voluntarily to answer questions from your elected representatives live and under oath. These people just feel like they can do whatever they want, man. I said 1.5 inches when this first happened. It's less than an inch, 1/2 inch, man. This would have been a lot different. 1/2 inch. The only building in the area with a direct line of sight to the president. Members of Congress openly saying that this had to be intentional. And they have the audacity to be forced with a subpoena to show up and then call it transparent? It's outrageous.
Parent, by the way. You stated earlier, Secret Service is not political. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say leaking your opening statement to Punchbowl News, Politico's Playbook, and Washington Post several hours before you sent it to this committee as being political? Yes or no?
Shit.
I have no idea how my statement got out.
Well,
come on,
that's
lady.
bullshit. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record. I would like to ask unanimous yes or no.
I have no idea how my statement got out.
Well, that's bullshit. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record articles by Punchbowl News, Political Playbook, Washington Post, all done at 5:24 a.m., 6:12 a.m., 6:34 a.m., a solid 3 to 4 hours before this committee got your statement.
Without objection, so ordered.
Okay.
Next time I see
Is
it.
the Secret Service
Thanks around me.
fully cooperating with our committee?
Yes.
Okay, you say you're fully cooperating with this committee. On July 15th, this committee sent you a list of demands of information that we wanted. Has the Secret Service provided this committee a complete list of all law enforcement personnel that were there that day? Have you done that? Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or no?
I will have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th? Yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman,
I want to.
Come on.
We have to maintain decorum in this committee.
No, we don't.
No matter how
Have you provided
upset we
any
get.
and all
No, we don't.
memos to this committee that we've asked you on July 15th? Have you provided?
Fuck decorum. How about that? I'm tired of these charades. This is beautiful. And the next time I see Nancy Mace, I'm buying her a drink. Congresswoman Mace. The next time you see me, I owe you a drink, whatever you want.
Provided all memorandums within the Secret Service?
I would have to get back to you on
That is a no. You are being dishonest or lying. Like you're being dishonest here with this committee. These are important questions that the American people want answers to, and you're just dodging and talking around it in generalities. And we had to subpoena you to be here, and you won't even answer the questions. We have asked you repeatedly to answer our questions. This isn't hard. These are not hard questions. Have you provided us all communications from the Secret Service related to that day and that rally? Have you provided this committee? We've asked for this information on July 15th. Have you provided any of this information that this committee has asked of the Secret Service? Any of it?
I'll have to get back to you.
Have you even read this letter that we sent you? Did you even read this?
Yes.
Okay. And you have said you don't know, you have no idea. Well, the answer is no. We haven't gotten a single document or piece of information or data from you or your agency in related to the rally that we have asked you for. So was this attempted assassination of Donald Trump a failure of training or execution or both?
I think that those are answers that we need to
Training,
examine.
execution, or both? Which one?
I think those are answers.
All
we
right.
need to determine.
How many Secret Service personnel have lost their jobs due to this colossal failure?
Period.
At this time, none.
How many Secret Service personnel have been required to take a refresher course on how not to let people shoot Donald Trump?
Our personnel are currently operational. We are examining the facts of this investigation, and we will make the changes necessary.
What time did law enforcement become aware that there was an individual on the roof with a clear line of sight to President Trump?
I am still verifying timelines.
Of course, 9 days in, you have no answers. How many minutes went by between the time law enforcement saw and took photos of crooks and the shooting? How many minutes?
I am still verifying timelines.
57 minutes.
We know this. She's
Thank you,
such
Mr.
a
Chairman,
liar.
and I yield back.
We know this stuff. She's such a liar. Anyway, thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Good job, Nancy Mace. And we will see you on Wednesday. I don't know. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow. There's just too much going on. I'm serious. We got to try to make this work and figure out what the schedule is. See if Flora can't make this happen. Do a little bit of magic because it's time. We're in July now. And honestly, we shouldn't have to do this until almost closer to Labor Day. But things are just popping off every day now. And we're living in this crazy time, and there's just too much to talk about. I didn't even get to any of the economic stuff, which is just going to be side platter food to digest at this point. We're living in a time where we're dealing with 3 and 4 major stories that would be like major stories for a single or multiple news cycles, but we're doing this on a daily basis. And we're not even able to get to all the polling. I mean, this is nuts. Which is a lot of red. Again, a lot of red today. All right. So with that in mind, number love for you as always. And I will see you on the next Inside the Numbers. Share it far and wide, folks. Don't forget to check out the Public Polling Project. That is linked in the description below. All right. That's my cue. I'm out. Deuces.